Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Saturday morning D&D show. My name is Jordan with a silent PH in the middle, and I am joined mostly always, sometimes like last week, he decides not to be there, by Sir Lucien over at Sir Lucien Gaming. Say hello, sir.
Hello, I am sometimes Sir Lucien, so this is when I'll be here. But that allows you to get to meet all these cool community people that me and Jordan know and have been meeting over the last few years. And I heard you had a really good host last week, so I heard the seat was filled pretty well.
I mean, on a scale of 1 to host, it was a host. But
yeah, they're okay.
There is a push in the Discord to have a three-person show with me, you, and LB. So maybe we'll have to make that happen at some point.
She's infecting the shows the way I like to think of
it. We are a Dungeons and Dragons podcast live stream thing. You can find us on YouTube, Twitch, and in podcast format. We do a show every week. If you're new here, thank you for being here. Please subscribe, like, and share with your friends. We talk about Dungeons and Dragons news, the games that we play, and how those games translate into evolving as dungeon masters. And we kind of just talk about RPGs in general. Today we have a very special show because we're going to do an unboxing. We've never done this before. But apparently Lucien got something in the mail from a Kickstarter, and he's real excited. He's real excited. Right behind him. It's right there. So sometime during our show, we'll be unboxing things. But yeah, we usually start with the news. And it's a weird day of news because basically it was announced that there's going to be an announcement. So it's
an announcement of an announcement.
It's the pre-announcement of the announcement on February 21st. Which I didn't even look. What day is that? The 21st is next Friday. So next Saturday's show, we should have some interesting things to talk about.
Yes. Good, a Friday announcement.
Lucien won't be here. So that's sad.
No.
You'll be traveling. So we have another guest host next week. You'll have to stay tuned to see who that's going to be.
Super celebrity, though.
Super celebrity. But they... Basically, Hasbro owns Dungeons & Dragons. They own Wizards of the Coast. And the chairman of the board and CEO of Hasbro just started talking about their company and like the profits that Wizards of the Coast and stuff is making. And in summary, he said pretty quickly, like, D&D grew for the 6th year in a row. So it's just like, it's a train that's just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. 5th edition, because that's 6 years of 5e. So that's...
Well, yeah. So when 5th edition hit, that's what he means. 6 years of D&D 5e. Streaming D&D was up 50% the last year. And that's been that's just been growing over and over. Like, more people are streaming games, and we have Critical Role to thank. They really like pioneered that. But it's just, I don't know, it's really cool to me that we have that microphones and webcams and internet is so obtainable now that anybody can do a show. Like some schmuck with a like PH in the middle of his name could do a show. It's amazing. So really cool, and just the stories people are being able to tell and follow and stuff. It's really fun. So I thought that was really cool. Streaming D&D content is up 50%. I wish YouTube would acknowledge that D&D streams are a thing. Because on Twitch, you can say, hey, we're playing tabletop games, or Dungeons & Dragons specifically. But on YouTube, when you try to select gaming and what game you're playing, it only populates video games. And I'm like, that's sad, YouTube. We could be playing some really cool D&D on YouTube, but instead, we play on Twitch. So, thanks. The elephant in the room is that they have substantial new digital gaming plans for D&D. But they didn't elaborate on that. So the obvious thing, I think, is video games. And we know that Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out, and they have other games and stuff that they're working on. Dark Alliance, that's the one I was looking for. But people are speculating that this could be a competition with D&D Beyond. Like, they want to create, because he specifically said, hey, streaming is up 50% since last year. By the way, we have digital gaming plans. And it's like, did those go hand in hand? And maybe not. I didn't listen to the thing. I'm just reading a summary of it. But I think that I don't know if you necessarily want to compete with D&D Beyond, but if they had a subscription service that had webcam interfaces, maps like Roll20, all of the D&D content loaded into it so that you could pull up magic items and stuff and create your own, things like that. And you could just take that and put it on Twitch. I mean, would you be interested in that?
I would. And I think they're corporate enough that if those are the plans they want, they will buy D&D Beyond and it will become their product. Just like Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast, they will buy, if they see a product that they want like that, I bet they just buy it so they don't even have to compete with it. Even if they release their own or they make that their own.
You're right.
They will just grab it, you know?
I don't know. I mean, Amazon owns D&D Beyond. So I don't know how that would work because Amazon's bigger than Hasbro, obviously. Like, but no, really, really curious about that. So that's kind of the speculation. I mean, it probably means a video game, but my brain is just like, well, that would be really cool.
Video games, the type of money they're throwing at it. I don't think it's just like just one thing. And we know there's Baldur's Gate. We know there's Dark Alliance. We know there's a few other franchises of games out there that are still running with their license, but they are clearly broadcasting that they're about to make more games and maybe a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
it's late to the party, but I was going to say it's late to the MMO party, but and the D&D Online is still kind of going, and Neverwinter is still kind of going. But like, I don't like those games. So actually D&D Online is fun, but it's just older. But a 5th edition D&D MMO, would you play that?
I would kill for it. Yeah, I would assassinate people for it for sure.
That is,
I really want a good, deep, hundreds of hour MMO world. Could you imagine if you could run around in Forgotten Realms like you can in a World of Warcraft or in a you like the Final Fantasy 14 is the big open world one. Could you imagine if you had somebody painstakingly recreated Forgotten Realms for you to run around in, and they made the cities kind of cool, but everything out around them is just random monsters and wild and dangerous and crazy, and you could do quests and you can run your characters and you would be on there nonstop.
It would be amazing.
I would love it.
Yeah. I'd be a full-time gamer streamer or something.
Yes.
Quick side note, Saturday morning D&D show does not condone murder or assassination, despite what Lucien said. So,
unless it's for a good reason.
No, Saturday morning D&D show does not condone murder. But yeah, really exciting stuff, man. It's 2020 is going to be the year of D&D. I think like it's just lots of cool stuff.
Has to be 2020. You can't have a better year of
the double crit
for D&D. Yeah.
Really, really cool stuff. What else did I want to say?
Oh, some people are out there looking up your D&D Beyond ownership knowledge here. Looks like maybe somebody might have bought it from Amazon already. Maybe
really?
Curse,
I'm pretty sure Amazon. Curse owns it, but I think Amazon owns Curse. Curse is an Amazon company. I don't know.
Our fan-based sleuths are out there Googling right now. I can hear their fingers clicking on the keyboard. They're trying to figure it out.
All right. Prove me wrong, Internet. Leave all of the comments so that I can slowly go through them and feel bad, because that's what YouTube comments are for. That's what the internet does. Other than that, that's all I really had to say there. There's some news. There's a tweet out there. You can Google it. This Hasbro interview is pretty cool. I'll probably put a link in the doobly-doo below. So
is the 21st news announcement, is it going to be video game related announcement, or do you think it's going to be tabletop announcement? Because we're still due some type of announcement about what the next campaign is going to be, or the next book that's a non working with another property book, like not a not a Critical Role Magic the Gathering, not a Critical Role, not a Acquisitions Incorporated. Those are all working with other IPs and bringing them into the D&D kind of making of books. We still don't know what the next book for 2020 is for Dungeons and Dragons at this point. Correct. We do not, but I don't think this February 21st is going to tell us that. It might, but it says, he said, you'll also see great digital game development for D&D, and we will see you on February 21st to outline that. So they're going to talk about the digital game development and stuff on the 21st, but who knows? They might piggyback and tell us other things. I don't know.
I don't know. Nobody knows. It's all speculation.
Knows.
I did.
And where's the D&D live event?
I had a dream a couple nights ago that I was running D&D in my house, and Chris Perkins was there, and I was running D&D for Chris Perkins, and it was just
such
fun.
a fanboy.
And I was like, so Chris, like, when is like Dice Camera Action coming back and stuff like that? And he's like, oh yeah, like we're working on this and stuff. I got good plans. I was like, yeah. So what's that next book? He's like, oh, I can't talk about it, Jordan. And I was like, even in my dreams, you tease me, Chris Perkins.
Even in my dreams, I'm trying to get info from Chris.
There was a Q&A with Jeremy Crawford. I did not watch this, but I bet Lucien did.
I did. I liked it.
Tell me all about it.
I always like when they do their Q&A. It's him and Bart Carroll, who kind of heads up Dragon Plus magazine, the online version of the Dragon magazine these days. And they've got some good articles out there, but he does it every other week kind of show. And they talked about the subclasses part 2, which you guys probably talked about last week. That I didn't get to talk about and give my opinions on.
Nobody cared. It was fine.
I know. I understand that. But the problem is that you give a lot of opinions that are wrong, and there was nobody probably there to counter you was the problem. I'm sure LB was just like, oh, Jordan, you're probably right. And oh, Jordan, your ideas are so smart. Like there was nobody to push back and say, no,
you need
that's
that
dumb.
Fighting spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dumb. So what did you think? I mean, I haven't even watched the show. I've been sick and I'm still sick right now, everybody. I haven't even watched your guys' show. I got on at the very end on my iPad just to say hi to people. And just, let people know I didn't die, but I haven't watched it yet. So what was your opinion on, Clockwork Sorcerer, on Cleric Domain I want to hear a little bit more. Give me the condensed version of that.
Well, we talked a lot about the Love Domain, because that was like pulled entirely. And for reasons of like, a lot of people were saying, well, this doesn't feel like love. It feels like infatuation or like toxic, because you're charming people and you're doing, kind of questionable things with the intent of love.
Well, you might do questionable. You don't have to do questionable things, you dirty people.
You're like, I'm pretty, so let me into the like castle. And it's like, So I see why they changed it, but I like the idea behind that. Overall, I liked as far as the cleric, I liked the bond you can have with another player, and then you can like give them damage resistance and stuff. That was kind of fun. The Clockwork Sorcerer, it felt like it came out of left field, but it's interesting. And if you want to be like, no, he was like, I think my justification is that a mad scientist infused a Modron into your body, and that's
everybody's been going to Modron. Yeah, everybody's been thinking Modron a lot. Yeah.
And then what was the other one? It was I can't remember, but didn't leave an impression.
It was Cleric.
Yeah, see, you don't.
Come on, chat, help us. What was the first one? It was the first one in the thing, and I thought it was a good one. I actually liked it. My brain's frazzled because of medicine, but you guys can help us.
Medicine.
And I like the idea of bringing the law and like changing the world's chaos. And saying, no, in this area, in this small area, at this small time, because we're in this big battle with this big bad guy, we're going to bring the domain of law here to push away the chaos. And I like some of the ideas of that. Or even, I felt like it was a very kind of cool Eberron thing. Like if I was going to do an Eberron, I was really thinking, okay, a Clockwork Sorcerer would be very cool for an Eberron campaign. Yeah. And I could really get into something like that. Creation Bard,
yes,
the Bard of Creation. There you go, Bard. I would have thought you're a Bard guy. You play bards.
That one I didn't care for a whole bunch. The idea of, which is funny because I like bards, but this idea of like songs as creation, I feel worked for Lord of the Rings, but doesn't really. I don't know. It just doesn't.
I heard people referring it to it as the Disney Bard.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking about like Mickey Mouse with the broom moving around and doing stuff. So almost like maybe imagine that whole thing, he's a bard, not a wizard or,
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it would work. So yeah, you kind of animate things. And I mean, it was bardy. It could be fun. I like pets. So having like a dancing chair that attacks things could be really cool. Ooh, what'd you get?
Here we go.
The podcast listeners are going to love this episode because they can't.
Yeah.
They can't see the box that he's unboxing.
Yeah, you're hearing a little bit of the unboxing. I tried not to do it too much. but this is the Spectaculars RPG by Scratchpad Publishing Kickstarter.
Which is a superhero RPG, looks like.
Tabletop role-playing game of comic book heroes.
Nice.
What I liked about it is it had an ad-lib Scratchpad thing for making characters and doing really cool stuff with. It was a really cool take on it. I'll take the plastic off so we can get to see some of it. But yeah, so they in the video, if you go back and you watch Jeremy talk about it, you get to hear their point of view. They answer some rules questions about that one and the previous one.
Yeah,
and
did
that's
they talk
really
about the love domain and stuff and why they were
what they were thinking about when they were making it and why, and some of the inspirations behind it. And I think if you listen to that, I think you'll get a good idea of at least where they're coming from, even if your mind didn't jump there when you read it. You'll be able to say, oh, this is where they were going. This is what they're giving us because that's what they were trying to do. And now I understand what they were trying to do. Good or bad, you can still give feedback and say, you know what, I think you missed the mark, or no, I don't think this subclass is all that interesting. Maybe move on to the next one, or just give your feedback of what would make it better or whatever. But it's good to hear what their idea was and then what they came up with to match that idea. I like that. I love it.
Yeah. No, it's always fun to see the design behind the idea, or the ideas behind the design is what I was trying to say. But yeah, so we talked a little bit about that last week. It was interesting. It was fun. Not still
too much else news.
Well, yeah, not we don't have any more news really, but like I was gonna say that I'm just excited for this next book whenever they do it. And I was trying to think, like, I should have done this before the show, so I apologize. And maybe I'll do it for next show. But I'm gonna go through and see, like, what classes are we missing for the Unearthed Arcana, and then see if how many more do we need to expect. Like there's 2 or 3 more Unearthed Arcana, and then we should be able to get a book at some point. So
yeah, because before the end of last year, we must have had 3 Unearthed Arcana articles with various classes in them that we have not seen show up in a book yet.
Yeah.
So there was 3 UAs worth of classes there. Plus we've gotten 2 more since 2020 started. So there's still more from even before that in 2019 that have never quite made it to a book yet. So there is a plethora of possibilities that they could jam into a book or more that might be on the horizon for us at some point.
Is that a dinosaur? A plethora? A plethorus?
I think that's, like a lot. Did I say it wrong?
No. I'm just making fun of the word because I think it's interesting.
See, that's why we make good hosts.
Is many dinosaurs. Oh yes, we're looking at the box. Spectaculars.
Super cool. Well, and I wanted to leave plenty of time because I didn't get to talk about all my games last week, so I definitely didn't want to do a ton of news, and I didn't have any more as far as that.
No, I'm following your lead. We can jump into Bardic Inspiration, which is where we talk about things that inspire us. Go ahead, Lucien. Tell me all about the things that inspire you.
I would love to. So I still keep watching. Hulu is a really good service to watch shows, and in Netflix and all these other ones. And I have all of those, Disney Plus and that kind of stuff. And I keep just finding random animes that get probably recommended to me, like, hey, maybe you watch this other one, maybe you'll like this one. And of course they all have a common theme that I get recommended, and it's usually this theme of person is going to play a new VR game and gets trapped in VR game, or is going to jump in VR game and meet all their friends and have fun, or somehow get sucked into another world. And it's always a fantasy-based, MMO-based kind of world, or an RPG-style world that you would think that, kind of would line up with playing a role-playing game, or even just being in an MMO or being in a VR world, which I think is all on the horizon. So I love that, and we get a lot of these. And it amazes me. What struck me this last week, because I've been seeing so many of them, is that I keep getting recommended these over and over. I've watched maybe 6 shows that are all about RPG fantasy worlds. And it's amazing that all these worlds are different enough, and they're not just clones of Dungeons and Dragons, and they're not just clones of Lord of the Rings. So it's so cool to see the creativity of these people that are making these animated shows and about these animated stories and the context that they happen in. And they have some really cool ideas about what a character can do and what their abilities are and how they level up and how the whole gaming part of the thing works, along with what the storyline is, right? There's a whole storyline going on. And so my inspiration is building up to this, as I was wondering, is there a way for us to build an RPG game that works like a lot of these anime MMO games or anime RPG games work? And the key that's different from, like, say, a tabletop game that we play with Dungeons and Dragons, or any of the role-playings really, is usually with role-playing games, you pick a class, you play the game, you get some experience points for doing things, and then you have a set criteria of what you get next when you go to your next level. So there's maybe there's a list and you can choose some, but most of the time it's just you get these things. Okay, your third level, here's the things you get. Now you go on and be that. But in a lot of these other shows, because they're more like an MMO, like, they are following this kind of area where if you swing a sword 100 times, then you unlock something cool you can do with the sword. So at any point you could pick something up and try it, and you'll be really bad at it in the beginning. But if you do it 100 times, you might unlock something. You do it 1,000 times, you might unlock something. You do it 10,000 times, you become the greatest swordsman ever, because you've used that sword 10,000 times. You use the axe 10,000, or you fired the firebolt 10,000 times, and now your firebolt's even better than anybody else that's ever used it, because it grants you ability improvement based on what you use, not on what level you are as the class itself. So I was trying to figure out, is there a way you could bring that into a tabletop RPG? How would you track the XP that way? How would you, is there like a simple tally sheet your players could have to say, you know, I blocked with my shield 4 times in that fight, and I hit like 3 times. And then over a course of a campaign, you're adding those up, and there's a little bit of math that gets done in between sessions. And all of a sudden you find out, oh, hey, guess what, Jordan? You had finally blocked with your shield enough. You have unlocked Bulwark. What does Bulwark do? Well, Bulwark says you can turn your magic power into defense power. So now your AC goes up higher if you want to sacrifice your, you know, whatever kind of crazy thing you could do. It sounded, the problem I was seeing, obviously, and you'll probably bring up, well, what do you think of that? Maybe I'll do that. I won't speak for you. What do you think of maybe trying to make a game where it's about what you do, not just picking a class?
No, there was, so I have 2 things that I'm in response. One, there was a game, I think it was an RPG, maybe it was D&D, and it was like a hack of starting, but like everybody starts with 10 as their stat in all stats, and then depending on what you did in the first like hour of whatever, you would up it. So if you used a dagger to attack, like, and you were successful, that would up your dexterity to 12 or something. And so based on what you were trying to do, you kind of build your character out of that. And then after that first combat, you are like, well, now you're a wizard, or now you're this. So the style of play, like, I want to be sneaky. Okay, well, now you're proficient in stealth because you decided to be sneaky. It reminds me of MMOs, speaking of MMOs earlier.
Right.
Because, in Final Fantasy XI, if you wanted to up your sword skill, you had to hit things. And there was
with a sword.
And there was a random chance that you would get like a 0.1 to 0.3 skill up. And then after you would get a whole skill up, you would go up 1. And then if you went up to a certain number, let's say 75, you would unlock a weapon skill. And then you would have a new ability that you could do. Nobody wants to keep track of that. Like, we have computers that keep track of that. And that's the problem. Yeah. But I think a fun way of doing it is saying like, okay, let's say how long the combat takes, or maybe how long how many monsters you fight. And for example, let's say you fight 3 monsters, or 4 monsters. And so for 4 monsters, you're going to roll a D4. And if it's a 4, you get a skill up, and then you track those skill ups. And so there's a random chance of getting a skill up. And if you fight 6 monsters, you roll a D6. And if you get a 4, 5, or 6, you get a skill up. Yeah, your white balance is a little high.
Too white balance. Yeah, I'm noticing.
And I like that idea. So after a combat, you roll to see if you get points to level up into a specific thing. And then, it's like, well, I've been using this sword for the last like 4 sessions. I got to 8 points. So now I have 8 points to do X, Y, and Z. So I don't know. That's when I like it. But
yeah, so that was my idea. The two animes that I've watched recently, if anybody wants to go out and say, well, where is he getting this idea, or what are these things that are inspiring him? And if you're just looking for inspiring cool character concepts or cool world concepts for maybe your homebrew, check out Infinite Dendrogram. I found that on Hulu. I'm sure it might be on other places, but I'm watching it on Hulu. And then Bofuri, Bofuri, is another one that I've been watching on Hulu. And the one has, Bofuri is pretty funny because it has this new player, and she hasn't really played games before. And when it's asking her what she wants to do, she just decides to put all of her points, every single point, into defense and nothing else. And then when she gets into the game, she's moving at like half speed that everybody else is moving at, but she's super strong. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how that evolves into her becoming a very powerful character, even though she has limitations, but she's maxing out this defense, which is allowing her to do some things that none of the other players can do. So it's kind of a cool little storyline that's going on there. And Infinite Dendrogram is another good one about when you get into the game, you're given an ability that gets tattooed on your hand kind of thing. And there's lots of different ones, and many are unique. And that was the other thing in that one that I liked, that idea that came from it was this idea where every character that joins the game is unique. Will we ever see an RPG where every character created is unique? It's not a variation of a paladin, not a variation of a bard, not a variation of a wizard. And I know there's some RPGs out there that will probably already try this. So I'm sure chat will say, hey, try this one because that does that. But it'd be fun to play something where every person who plays it has a unique character that is not a part of any class at all. They're just all different. You know, they're just all kinds of cool different stuff. So that was my bardic inspiration.
I want to create an RPG, a tabletop RPG, and I've been half working on it since last Gen Con, talking with people like Celeste Konowich and other streamers and stuff. They were saying to me, they're like, well, I want to make a game at some point. And I'm like, oh man, I want to make a game now. And so I got home and I was like writing furiously, and I've fallen out of it, but I like the idea. And I've talked about this on Saturday Morning D&D show before, where I want like the Lego building blocks to create a character. So in your mind, if you're like, I really want to make a necromancer, I'm going to take necromancy magic and pets, and I'm going to combine the two of them, and that's going to be my necromancer. Or if I want to be a ranger, I'm going to take like nature magic and pets. Or if I want to be a wizard, I'm going to take like fire and ice, and then I can do like fire and ice spells and stuff. So, but that's something that is for another discussion. But
yeah,
I like the idea of what you're saying. Like, you create the class based on whatever you want, and then it's unique to you, you know? So.
Yeah. And you're picking little pieces and parts. You're not picking like a whole path, you know? Yeah. And I know you can multi-class, and I know D&D has come a long way into allowing you to create a wide range of characters. And my ranger may be very different than Jordan's ranger. But yeah, I mean, but even going further than that, taking it the next step, like that's a good step, the next step. So what was your bardic inspiration?
I was just reading chat really quick. My bardic inspiration, we talked about this last week a little bit, but I wanted to talk about it some more, is magical diseases. So Lucien was sick, and we were just talking, like, diseases kind of happened, but and we had the death curse in Dungeons and Dragons in with Tomb of Annihilation.
No, I solved that.
Yeah, it's
that's a little bit later in the episode. Yeah.
And Neverwinter Nights, the video game, had the plague that was spreading through Waterdeep, and it dice. And so it made me think of like a magical disease that you want a disease that isn't cured by greater restoration or something like that, or just restoration. And so we're going to assume that this disease is somehow whatever. But how do you spread a magical disease? And so that was my question to you. Like, if you were going to put one in your book, like, is it through touch? Is it like you have a 50% chance when you come in contact with somebody of catching it? Like how would you spread a plague throughout your campaign?
I would do a chant in an area around where a spell has been cast, and it would be a disease that is infecting the fabric, the weave.
Okay.
That is happening. So anybody's casting spells puts the people in danger in like a 50-foot range, And maybe it's a small chance, or maybe it's a, you know, a slight chance, but then they might contract the disease, which then can further propagate it. And maybe it's something that's a withering, kind of slow withering of stamina and constitution and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, tie it to somehow the weave needs to be cured or fixed.
Yeah, that would be really cool. So is it like if I have the disease and I cast a spell, there's a chance that I'll infect the people around me? Otherwise, I'm fine. Like nobody's going to get hurt unless I cast a spell. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe carriers are different from people who are infected, or maybe infected can be carriers, or you know, maybe you don't even know you have it until people start getting sick around you, or there's all kinds of cool little fun things you can do.
It makes me think of like the life stream in Final Fantasy VII, but also just like if it's transmitted through the weave, that would be interesting. Like a disease that's transmitted through magic. So it only affects spellcasters. Like I'm going to just change up your idea a little bit. Like what if it only affects spellcasters and it is like a proximity thing? Like if I touch you or if I cast a spell on you, it transmits that virus. And so then the weave is just getting torn and hurt, and wild magic could happen around you or something. That'd be really interesting. But
I love it. That'd be fun. That'd be a cool thing to investigate.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is I like the idea that, I mean, that's a good quest jumping on thing too. Like we have to go find out what this is, and then how do you stop it? And then how do you cure it? You know, and like we have to somehow fix the weave in some way. And I like that idea a lot. So yeah, I don't know. So magical diseases, it's something I've never used. I've done, exhaustion effects and stuff with my players going through the desert and things like that, but I've never had them like, I don't know, like contract something, like you're going to lose your arm or you're going to do that. I like the idea of that ticking clock. Like you're going to die in 2 weeks. You guys got to figure out what you're going to do to stop that kind of a thing. And so, something I want to do.
Because like the zombie scratch is like more of a typical, or, you know, or like what we have is, you know, through sneezing or touching of things, and then other people touch it and they don't wash their hands. And that may be a thing in a fantasy world. How much hand washing is going on? How much germ bacteria cleansing are they doing? How much surgery is happening? How much wound binding is happening? And how is that? Or is it the fleas on the rats are biting people, or mosquitoes are going around? Because in Chult, you could get a disease. You could get throat leeches, and, you know, big spoiler show, I guess. But there's, everybody knows if you go in the jungle, there's always something that you can contract or tries to kill you. And that's all about the environment trying to kill you. But I like the idea of an infected, we call it the weave because I believe that's the way they kind of describe magic in a sense in Dungeons & Dragons, or at least they have in some of the places. Yeah. Not everybody probably uses that in their world, but something like that I think would be kind of cool. Or, I mean, what else could you do for a magical disease? The only problem is that all the players always assume that they're playing clerics and druids and healers, that there should just be some easy spell they can cast and it should all go away. But if you're trying to make that not something that's easily going away, kind of like the death curse was, you couldn't just spell it away at that point. You have to come up with reasons why they can't use spells to cure it and fix it.
Yep. And I think that's the quest. Like I've got to throw this diamond into a volcano and then transmute it into something using the lava. And then you have to like swallow that and say your name 3 times backwards, and then you're healed or something. So I don't know.
Yeah. So basically like breaking a curse that is causing the sickness. You're not curing the sickness, which is what gets around it.
And I think that's where I'm conflicted, because it's really easy to say, well, you're cursed. But I like the idea of like, it's a disease that like, medical. I mean, you don't catch scientific. A curse. Yeah. Well, yeah. And you don't like walk up to someone like, oh, I caught your curse. Like I want it to be like a disease where people are like, you stay clear of that town because they all have like magic rot, you know? Yeah. And so very cool. But moving on, we do play Dungeons & Dragons occasionally on this game. Lucien has been playing lots of Dungeons & Dragons, and I think we're going to... we should just say stop listening here if you're in Tomb of Annihilation or if you don't want spoilers. Yeah. Because I don't know how we can talk about the finale of this without getting into some spoilers.
And I kind of want to talk about spoilers. So I'm definitely warning those of you, if you don't want, what we'll do is if you want to mute, I guess, and just keep watching, when we're done, I'll just clap my hands and you will know we are done with spoilers for Tomb of Annihilation. So
you have been warned. Spoilers.
LB's like, I'm going dark.
It's really good.
So Tomb of Annihilation, we ended it. I was sick, but I toughened up. I said, no way I missed this show, but I wasn't going to miss that finale of that D&D game, because we had built up, and I've been telling you guys all this time how much I've loved Tomb of Annihilation as a campaign. Even to the end, even with the end battle, it's been my favorite campaign so far. All the other ones are going to have to try to beat it in some way, and I'm going to try to play through all of them. But right now, Tomb of Annihilation is my favorite. And I really liked it. We got to the bottom of the tomb. We were able to fight the battle. I kept waiting for a shoe to drop. I kept waiting for this, because you kept saying, I can't wait to talk to you about the ending. And I want to, because almost as if you knew there was a little controversy, or if you were wondering something specific. But to me, I kept waiting for, are they going to tell us, okay, you wake up and it's been a dream, or, you've been dead this whole time, and, you've actually been ghosts, or you've been spirits that have been doing that. I was waiting for a M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end, and it really didn't happen. So I was pleasantly surprised. I'm like, all right, we've broken the curse. We got here, we found out what did it, we destroyed it spectacularly, and we fought a Serac himself, and it was cool. And we beat him enough that he took off, and that was the end of our campaign. We kind of stopped it there, and it was fun. I felt like it was a little bit rushed, because we were already at midnight and everybody wanted to be done by like 11 or 11:30, but some things had kind of drawn us out, but we knew it was the end, so we couldn't just stop. So we wanted to finish it up, and we didn't even do epilogues yet of like saying, okay, where do you see your characters in 2 years from now, or are we going to play them again in other adventures or anything like that? But it was satisfying. I liked it. I liked playing my war wizard against it. It was tough fighting a Serac. I don't know what your experiences was with it, or from you reading it, thought it would be like, but man, is it tough to fight a lich as a wizard.
No, it just sounds
counter everything.
I know, and I've only read Tomb of Annihilation, but for those who haven't read it and are interested, and we're in spoiler territory, a Serac is siphoning souls into this dead god fetus, and he's trying to like re-energize it in a evil necromantic way. And so that's what's causing the death curse, is these souls can't go back to the afterlife or back into a body because they're being siphoned into this thing. And there's just all these really interesting mechanics, because you're fighting a Serac, and who is a lich of famous. I've done a video on him. Check my YouTube. But a Serac, and then you have the AoE or the effects, the area effects and stuff of this like god fetus thing. And it's just, and then there's like, isn't there lava or fire or something? I can't remember.
Underneath it. So you don't want to fall in that.
So, I mean, there's a lot going on with this. And so I just thought it was a really interesting battle. And I was curious how you guys handled it and things like that, because I think a Serac is like flying, or he can teleport. Like
he could teleport.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with that.
Yeah, and there's platforms that you can only get to on adamantium beams, but they're like, you move half speed on those. So our DM was really good about using that mobility of a Serac just moving around against us, and getting them away from our melee guys who had to find a way to try to get there and use up all kinds of resources. And it turned out to be a really crazy fun battle of trying to outwit this crazy powerful lich. And there were some harrowing moments where I thought, if this next dice roll, if this goes bad for us, it all landslides on, because there was like these moments of you're on the edge, and if you go over the edge, there's no recovery from that. You're just sliding down. But we would just make it, or the dice roll would be just enough that it was bad, but not too bad. Or like one of our persons got banished, couldn't come back because the roll to make the save, he couldn't make it. He couldn't roll high enough. And it was a save, so it didn't matter if he rolled a 20. If he even rolled a 20 on the dice, because he had like a -2 or something to the dice roll because of that, whatever it was, because of his stat, he could never make the save to return from banishment. So that was a problem.
Interrupt concentration in order.
And we couldn't interrupt his concentration ever, and we never were able to interrupt his concentration because he could make that check so easily. And he's using legendary resistances to resist all of our stuff. And I'm trying to use slow, and I'm trying to use. I'm using lightnings, and he's resistant to certain types of damage. But it was a good battle with 6 people fighting on him, or was it 5 people? And it resolved well. He definitely, once he got down to a certain point, he bugged out. And I think that's how it's written in the module. So
I think there's ways where,
but he left.
Wizards of the Coast wants to keep that character alive in canon.
So we can't kill him,
he can't like die and I think it says in the book, if they do figure out a way of capturing a Sararak and actually killing him, his phylactery is located really safe somewhere, and we're not even going to tell you where, but he will reform, so don't worry, kind of a thing.
So I think that was it as far as spoilers. I can probably talk non-spoiler at this point. Are you good? Any spoiler? Okay.
No, I'm okay.
Everybody come back.
Come back,
LB. LB, are you back?
You're the only
one. We're waiting for LB.
I was waiting, I think.
So this will be non-spoiler now.
Really
I loved it.
You loved the ending, then. Yeah.
I think everybody should play it. I think it was a great campaign that had. We got to level 11 in ours. I could see a group getting to 10 or between 10 and 12. Anywhere in that range when they run their group through it. There's plenty of times where you could almost TPK or you could almost get wiped out. It definitely was dead. It wasn't as deadly as the old version of Tomb of Annihilation. What the
Tomb of Horrors, you mean?
Tomb of Horrors. Yeah, the old.
Which I want to run that for you guys.
Player characters.
I realized
you just want to kill us.
Well, no, I've realized it's like a Tomb of Horrors is a passage. It's a rite of passage for D&D players. I feel. And it's not that I want to kill you, but like it's such a interesting module. And when I ran it, we had a blast. Like it was so much fun. And I was talking to LB about it, and she was just like, "Yeah, I've never played it, never." And I'm like, "You've been doing D&D for how long, and you've never played Tomb of Horrors?" And I think you're the same way.
Like,
I haven't played it either. I need to run it for you guys. Like maybe that's another Gen Con thing.
Me and LB will go. We'll find some teammates. You can run us through it. Could be Gen Con run of it would be fun.
I actually put it on Roll20. I put Tomb of Horrors on Roll20, like a map and stuff, and I kind of configured it. And then I put the fog of war so you couldn't see. And that could be a lot of fun to do.
And I could bring all the extra monitors and stuff in my car because I'm driving down, so we could set up a cool little thing that you could display to us, and we'd only see the player portion of it.
Well, at that point, I'll just buy a Chesic map on the floor and some markers or something. But
then we can all buy dice for it. We can all buy miniatures while we're there, and then we can come back to the hotels and play it. That'd be fun.
Tomb of Horrors is so good. I love it so much.
So that was really good. I enjoyed it. If you haven't played it yet, find a DM to play it. I do want to run it for a group now. I think this would be a really fun adventure, especially like brand new D&D players. I want to take a group of brand new Dungeons and Dragons players through this because it seems like it has everything from 1 to level 11. You get a wide gamut of all the cool stuff in Dungeons and Dragons that you could ever want. I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a really good module. So then that ended.
Yep.
And then this past so that was 2 weeks ago, which I would have normally have talked about on the show where I was sick, but I wasn't. So that was then. And then on Wednesday night, which I hear might be changing to Tuesday night. So we might be changing to a Tuesday night run. We started Waterdeep Dragon Heist with brand new characters. And I'm playing a halfling cavalier that rides a giant Rottweiler. And uses a lance, kind of very similar to Labyrinth, which I'm sure that's a movie you have watched, Jordan. Labyrinth with what's the little guy on the shaggy dog that she ends up befriending? It's like Sir Didymus or Sir something like that. And I'm sure chat will remember. and they get to run around. So that's kind of the concept of what I'm doing. I'm doing a halfling cavalier that rides a Rottweiler into battle, and it's really cool. The reason I bring it up, one, we're playing new characters, so that's fun, and we're playing a new campaign, so I get to play through all of Dragon Deep, Waterdeep, Dragon Heist, or Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and then we're going to go into, we think, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, so we might actually get to play that too. But the other thing I brought it up was because me and you have had this conversation a few times. I definitely had the conversation with my dungeon master, Danimal DM, who's a great Australian dungeon master, my favorite guy to play with right now. I said, you know what? I want to play this cavalier that rides a dog, a halfling that rides this armored dog, but I don't want the dog to be a plot point. I don't want the dog to be part of some character arc, or I don't even want the dog to die ever. Yeah. Like, I don't want that to be a part of a scene because we're just big dog lovers, and I don't want that to be any type of thing. So I'm saying, so if you're planning things for characters, John Wick. I don't want that at all. And I know you've had this talk. Your wife, when she played her character, had this stern talk with you of, you can do whatever you want to me. I don't care. Torture me as a DM as you want, but don't touch my dog. Yeah. You know, so, and he was really cool about it. He loves dogs too. He has a big Great Dane that has the same colorings as my dog. And we came up with some ideas on, no matter what happens, if the dog goes down, it's just unconscious, or it's like the other thing we were thinking of, it's like one of the figurines of power. So it goes back to being a necklace that can be summoned an hour later or something. So it's something where it never becomes an issue. I don't want to have a dog funeral. I don't want to have to be chasing other dogs every time we get fireballed. I have to go find a new mount. I don't want that gameplay, but I do want to play a cavalier. So I hope that's cool. And I'm not trying to make the animal be super powerful either, to where the DM is antagonized, because it's like, oh, so you don't want me to kill him or target him, you don't want me to make him a big deal, but you're going to try to get 2 attacks off him all the time, you're going to do all these cool things. And I'm like, I'm not even going to do that. I'm riding him around, and that's the only thing I'm doing. I don't even want the dog really doing much else than that. And maybe some RP fun, like when it growls at somebody, or it goes over and licks somebody's wound, or it, does cool, fun dog stuff, but nothing that's like making my character overpowered, because I don't want to antagonize him to the point where he feels like he has to do something to stop me overpowering the game. So that was why I brought it up. That was something that I encourage all of our players to do. If you're going to have a concept like that, work with your dungeon master to do the cool part of the concept, but be willing to give up something too, so that you're not making it hard on them when all of a sudden you've created a super character and now you're going to try to limit them to say, and don't hurt my super character. Don't affect my cool thing that I'm going to do, because now I've got this cool thing that allows me 5 attacks on a turn and I'm doing mega damage, and you can't, don't put your DM in that position. So that was the thing I wanted to bring up to our group. And I know we've heard yours, but I'll give you a chance to talk about it too. From your DM standpoint, or even from your player standpoint, how are you handling companion animals, companion NPCs, or people that are part of the character, but maybe not so much mechanically or, class-wise?
I mean, with my wife's Fey Corgi, she's a Beastmaster ranger, and she specifically chose that because she wanted a pet, and we were really new. Like, D&D had just 5th edition had just come out, and I hadn't started my YouTube channel or anything, so I was really green, and I'm like, well, if you want a pet, you kind of have to be this class. So she chose that class because she wanted a pet. In hindsight, I should have been like, here's a necklace or something that has a corgi on it that you can summon. Because the rules for Beastmaster, we've gone over this like to death, and we don't need to talk about it again, are not the best. And you have to like go find a new pet if your pet dies or something. So we've made it that it's like a Fey spirit kind of tied to her, and then she can expend spell slots and stuff to bring it back during long rests. And so if it does get targeted by because it gives her a significant amount of speed, like the dogs are fast compared to a halfling. So with that, if she's riding around on it and it does a bunch of stuff, so we've been doing that. And then she can, if it does get hit by a fireball or something, she can bring it back at whatever point. But I think overall, we've talked about this again, but like, if your players want a pet, give them a pet, like Like they can have a mouse on their shoulder without having the find familiar spell and thing like that. Like I think that's should be encouraged. So it's really cool.
Right. And I think there should be rule because not every, well, in any sticking point, many people might say, I want to have a brother or a sister sibling as part of my character backstory, but you may say, I don't want them to be used as a plot point.
Right. And that's
it's a little too strong. So don't be afraid to tell your DM that there's this cool thing that I think would make my character kind of cool. But I also, I don't really want it to become a trauma point in the camp. I'm not looking for you to, really wrench my guts out. Or maybe you are. If you are, it's cool. And tell them, yeah, it'd be cool if you use this, the brother gets kidnapped or my little brother and I've got to do this cool stuff. And that's kind of cool. You can do that. But if you aren't comfortable with that, tell them so they know. And be ready to give something up for what you're asking. Mm-hmm. So for me, I don't want to make the dog super powerful and turn it into an entity that he has to worry about. I want to just have the look and the feel of it without it being super powerful or anything, so I can have a cool character concept. So be willing to give something up if you're asking for something really cool, and your DM should work with you. And if they don't, that's cool. Find a DM that will work with you. Some DMs are gonna, and not in a bad way. If the DM's just like, no, I don't really want to deal with that. This is the type of game I want to run, and it's ultra deadly, and it's like, OSR and all this kind of stuff, and I want it to feel that way and gritty. You'd be like, all right, cool. That's a fun game too, but I'm going to go find the type of game that I want to play, which is, wherever that is. So.
Yeah, I'm doing this Rod of Seven Parts game that will be my D&D 5th edition stream debut. I've done one-shots and stuff, but this is going to be a long-running campaign on Twitch. And I've been going over backstories with my players. And a lot of them were like, it's interesting the dynamic I have, because I have one player that's like, here's my loose kind of like idea for the character, and I'm like, awesome, I like all of these things, could we go in this direction? And they're like, oh sure. And then I have my other player who's like, here's my 8-page backstory. This character that I'm playing is actually like the daughter of this other character that I've played before, and they have all of these ties and connections and da-da-da. And I was like, so can I use all of this? Like, I don't know that character, so if I make something up, am I going to be upset? And they were like, well, kind of. Could you just not use any of that? And I'm like, well then, oh yeah, sure, like great. And they were very clear. They were like, it's more for me. Like, I need to know all of this backstory stuff so that I have something to, it helps me roleplay and things like that. And I'm like, all right, that's fine, that's awesome, as long as your character, because of their background, is still willing to go on a quest with strangers until you guys get to know each other. And they were like, oh, that's not a problem. And so it's just interesting. Like some players really need to have all of that tied in. And I think other players are just, and I have one player who still hasn't given me their backstory yet. And it's like, oh yeah, I don't know, I'll jump in. And I'm like, all right, you don't need a backstory, but like it helps me with session 1. Oh, it's ruined forever. He dropped it. It's done.
Well, and actually it's funny you say that, because Danimal on this Waterdeep one, he sent us a big list of, hey, tell me all these things about your characters, and all of our other players in the game have filled that out. It's like this big thing about all backstories and NPCs and family and ties and things. And I sent him a message back and I said, Danimal, I don't think I want to do any of this yet until I know I'm going to keep playing this character, because the concept I have for the character I think is pretty good, but I want to play a session or two before I really dive into all of that stuff and really get into it. Because I might not like this character, and I might decide, you know what, I'm going to go a different route. He's like, no, that's totally cool. When you have this stuff ready to go, or you're really sure you're going to play this character and you're really into it and you're really ready to throw the backstory, and just let me know. And I was just like, that's the perfect response you want from a dungeon master, to say, here, give me the stuff if you want to, and you have it, and you already have that in your mind. But if I'm not ready to do that, be okay with that too, because maybe they're not sure what that character is yet. They don't know. That personality is not going to come out until they're sitting at the table and interacting with the other players. And then it comes out, and then they feel it, then they lean into it, and then they like it and they love it. And then it develops from there. And then it becomes a much bigger thing. So don't be surprised if it takes them a session or two to find that personality that they're looking for, that character background. So very cool. So that was my gaming in Dungeons and Dragons. I took up most of the time, but I had so much to talk about that I wanted to talk about, because I know my gaming was cool, but you have some cool stuff too.
Well,
tell us about your stuff.
I didn't play any games, so.
Thanks for the show, guys. We'll see you next.
This was wonderful. No, unfortunately, one of my players got in a car accident, and we had to like emergency cancel. He's okay, everybody's fine.
Sorry.
But like, car is not doing well. So it was one of those like an hour before we were gonna play, we had to cancel. There is talk of maybe picking it up tomorrow because we are in the very last battle of Acquisitions Incorporated, and we want to finish that. So we might play tomorrow, which will be fun. But my big exciting news is this Wednesday, I'm starting my Rod of 7 Parts campaign. And it has Ted from Nerd Immersion, Brenna, who does game design stuff. She's really cool. LB of LB Hack 'em Up fame and Lex of Dank Dungeons fame are all in my game. And I will be running it. It is if you're not familiar with Rod of 7 Parts, it's a really famous magic item that is a staff that's like broken up into different things. And I won't spoil too much, but like it's a famous magic item that they made a little campaign around for the Greyhawk, But it's permeated Dungeons and Dragons so much that the adventure that I'm reading, that I'm basing this entire campaign off of, says like, it started here, but the rods, like the fragments of this rod could really go anywhere. So, let it go wherever you want. And so it's now landed in Faerun, and our party members have to investigate and figure this out and understand what's happening. It's really cool. Like it's Rod of 7 Parts is something I wanted to do for a very long time. So I'm really excited to run it. It's been in Acquisitions Incorporated. They've done a little like hinting at it. I think there's a couple other streams that have already adapted it. So I'm not doing something entirely new, but we are going to be streaming on the Nerd Immersion Twitch channel. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And in fact, today at 4 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be on my YouTube channel with maybe some of my cast members. They were like, well, we might be able to make it. If not, I will be there solo talking about the stream and talking about the game in general and what I've prepped so far, and it'll be fun. So we're just going to have like a hangout and kind of talk about characters and things like that. So if you want to watch Jordan live again later, then you can. It'll be a lot of fun. Lucien will be there. It'll be awesome. And yeah, we're going to do just really quick gaming news. Like once we finish Acquisitions Incorporated, I think we're going to turn around and play my Warforged again. And that Warforged character, we're going to go on a mini campaign called The Search for Lorenzo, because Lorenzo the Warlock died in the last game. And so we want to like go find his spirit or his body and resurrect him somehow, which will be really fun. And then after that, we're doing some like really Weird in the Wild style D&D game, which is a supplement that came out. And I don't know a whole bunch about it, but it's got custom spells and stuff. And you kind of have to survive in like a dark forest. And so all I know is the DM is really excited about it. And that makes me really excited about it. Like if you're super passionate about this, I want to be in that game because that's awesome. So yeah. And cool. I bought a Pathfinder 2 book today because it was on sale. That was the
Humble Bundle?
No, it was on sale on Amazon, like a physical copy.
Amazon.
And I don't know if I'll play Pathfinder 2, but I should read it and understand it because I'm like, it's really popular. It's awesome. And like, there's more than just D&D out there. So I'm curious about the mechanics and I want to read up on it and see how it works and stuff like that. So yeah. Anyway. So
just a quick on for those of you that weren't able to watch the unboxing and my camera was playing craziness. It comes in a nice big box.
This is
has
spectacular.
These cool scratch pad, ad lib like pad stuff for the adventures, and you can write down your notes as a dungeon master, even if you can't see all the writing on them. It's got like 5 of these things in here where you can write them down and play through them. And it's got a setting book and a rules book. And then they also have these, almost like these trays. Remember those card game you used to play with the pennies and your family would sit around and play it. And there was a big pot of pennies in the middle and you had cards and stuff. That's what this reminds me of, is these like game trays that you can play on. You keep your tokens and your dice and your status effects and lots of little pop-out things here. Then they've got a whole card tray in here, so there's a lot of cards that involve the role-playing game too. Almost like, what was the name of that game? Like Canasta or something like that. So very cool. Spectacular superhero RPG, kickstarted It's just now being shipped out for any of those that you have seen it. I'm going to go ahead and take actual pictures of it using my phone so you can actually see stuff. And I'll flood Twitter with all the cool stuff of the true unboxing and the more reveal. And for those of you that are listening, thanks for bearing with us. For those of you that were trying to watch, sorry my cameras wouldn't pick it up. The artwork looks really good. You can see it here in the background. I'm excited. I love a superhero RPG. Have you played a superhero RPG yet? No. See, Jordan, we got to get you into a superhero.
I have never played a superhero RPG, but that would be fun.
Yeah, like what superhero would you play? What power set? What powers would Jordan like to play?
Nightcrawler is my favorite X-Men, so I probably want to be.
So you want a teleporting melee fighter?
That would be awesome.
With lots of good quippy lines and a cool German accent, is what I'm hearing.
Let's do it.
That is a cool character, though. Nightcrawler is really fun.
He's
such a good one.
So awesome.
All right, so guys, that's our show. I'll let Jordan take us out like he does every single week because he hates to be late. I got him to go 1 minute extra.
1 minute over. It's awful. Yeah, that is our show.
Take us away.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for reviews and subscribing and all that jazz. We really love it. Apple iTunes reviews are great. Give us some 5 stars. We love stars. It helps us get the podcast out there. And tell a friend, hey, I enjoy this podcast. I think you might as well. And join the Discord because we're always chatting in there.
Join the discussion.
You can get a hold of us and say hi. It'll be awesome. Thank you again. We will see you next week with a special guest on the Saturday Morning D&D show because our good friend Lucien will be traveling. But it's going to be a good show.
I will put pictures on Twitter of exactly what I'm doing during the show. So after you're done with the show, check Twitter and you will see what I'm doing. And I think for all of you role players out there, it's going to be super cool and you're going to love it because it is a very cool thing I'm doing next Saturday.
That's awesome. Well, okay. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next week. So take care, everybody.
Bye.